Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game Mess. So, Derek got a fun and exciting video for you guys today because Gopher64, one of the best N64 emulators out there, just got a big upgrade this week, and it also got a big upgrade last month. So we're going to combo together two different upgrade videos into one major Gopher64 emulation update vid. I hope you guys enjoy that because honestly, N64 is having a massive moment in 2026. I just recently talked about the Castlevania Legacy of Darkness static recomp, so I'm using footage from the N64 version being emulated in Gopher64, that way I can actually do a comparison in the future. But honestly, it's really hard to pick a quote-unquote best N64 emulator. It kind of just depends on what it is you're looking for. I would say Aries or Aries, depending on how you want to pronounce it, does an incredible job. Rosalie's Mupen GUI is probably the prettiest looking N64 emulator, and Gopher kind of slots in between the two. But it has a really nice UI, it is extremely easy to set up, and a ton of controls, and now with this new update, it's also going to have netcode as well as the ability to rewind N64 emulation. So if you make a mistake and you want to rewind the game, you can 100% do that now, and that is a fun feature to include in an N64 emulator. Before we get too much further involved though, do me a huge favor down below, hit like and subscribe and ring that notification bell, definitely helps us out. If you feel so inclined and want to support the channel, I got a Patreon link down below as well. But I love N64, just like everybody else does. I have so much nostalgia for this console, and honestly, getting better emulation is always going to be a good thing, because until every single N64 game either has a static recomp or a source port based upon a decompilation, unless you want to buy an analog 3D with a flash cart, or a Mr. FPGA, or the mod retro which will be coming out soon with a flash cart, then you don't get the best version of a game without software emulation. And that definitely is important, because honestly, not everyone wants to spend a metric ton of money on some of the hardware out there that'll play N64 games. And because software emulation is video game preservation, it keeps these games alive for the long term, and I absolutely advocate for that. You'll see here, as of 2 days ago, we're at version 1.1.24 of Gopher N64 emulation, and this one is definitely a big one because, like I said, it is going to be getting netcode. Rollback isn't included quite yet, but they say that they'll be working on it in the future, but netcode being rewritten from the ground up is going to be a better experience for everyone. Because the reality of the situation is N64 games, so many of them, excelled as multiplayer experiences, and we all became adults, unfortunately. Still wish I was kind of a kid sometimes in the responsibility department, so we don't have all the time in the world to have our friends come over to our house with some pizza and a 2-liter Mountain Dew, or at this rate, a pizza and a 30 rack of Miller High Life, and just sit down and play hours of games. But maybe you could pick up a couple matches online with other people out there, so you can get your N64 multiplayer fun without actually having to plan with anyone. And it's definitely something. These games are just that much better when you're playing with friends, even if it is going to be a friend that might be 500 miles away, not 5 feet away. So in this new version of Gopher64, the netcode has been completely rewritten. It's going to be faster, more stable, and just overall a better experience. And you will see here, these are all of the changes, and I would say that the rewind option really is a fun one as well. Hopefully it does get that rollback soon, but something about being able to rewind in the game, especially if you make a mistake in something that you're just trying to get through, it really is a fun kind of bonus feature, and one that I didn't expect to see, but definitely enjoy having. Now moving back into Legacy of Darkness, you'll see me use the rewind in just a moment. It is bound to the F6 key, but you can also use your controller and a button combo to do it as well. It steps back by 1 second, so you have 30 seconds worth of rewind, and that means the last 30 seconds of your gameplay of all of the code stepping, all of the inputs and everything else are held in memory, and then you can basically hit F6 like you see here and rewind the actual game within 30 seconds. Not really that useful for something like this area in Castlevania Legacy of Darkness, but if you just basically fall off a cliff because this game's jumping can be a little bit janky, that is where a 30-second rewind feature would absolutely come in handy, because you don't want to have to play 5 or 10 minutes of the same game just because you feel like Cornell should have grabbed the ledge and he didn't, because that is just a massive problem in Legacy of Darkness. Hopefully that can be fixed soon in the Castlevania Legacy of Darkness recomp. I will have an update on that as well soon, because it has updated with some new features and improvements. Let's take a look at something like California Speed, one of my favorite racing games on the N64, and a game that I hope gets a static recomp or a source port soon, even though there really isn't a decomp in development. It's also going to be our first soundtrack sample, so go ahead and listen to the audio quality, and I'll be right back with more. The reason I want to take a look at California Speed, not only just because I love the game and love talking about it, is when I actually emulate this in Aries or Aries, and every once in a while it gets a little bit of an audio hitch, almost like the audio dropped back 2 frames and then try to catch itself back up, at least the last time I tested it. And while it really is something that is almost imperceivable, it is something I notice. But honestly, we are really living in a new golden era when it comes to N64 emulation. We have Aries, we have Gopher64, we have Rosalie's Moop and GUI. These are the 3 that I will always use to capture if I'm not using real hardware, and getting Gopher64 updated definitely is a big deal. Now moving over to the update that happened last month that I just never ended up making a video on, you'll see here there is now an Android release as well. And that's something going to make a lot of people happy because I always get requests on the channel to talk about Android emulation. It's honestly just something that I don't get all that into, but if you're into it, now Gopher64 is going to accommodate you as well. And basically every single game I throw at Gopher64 just 100% works. And a game like Bomberman Hero, one of my favorite games of all time, not just on N64 but on any console. Yes, we have a static recomp now, and honestly that would be my preferred way to play the game, just because it gives us a lot more options. If you're on something like an Android device, maybe you don't actually get a chance to run something like Bomberman Hero Recomp, because I always try to remember not everyone has a full set of hardware out there, whether it's PC or consoles, and sometimes software emulation really is the only option. And honestly, if you just want to get a quick pick up and play game going on, especially for N64 games that don't have recomps or source ports, something like Gopher64 is really going to be a genuinely great way to play it, because honestly N64 needs FPGA in my opinion, and that clean HDMI out, or a console that has been modded for RGB, or you have to have something like a CRT television to make N64 look good, because honestly, even with the best scaler on the market, trying to scale that S-video signal up into a 1080p or 4K signal just never looks that good to me. But with software emulation, obviously we don't really need to worry about that so much. So for the princely sum of $0, you can play these games in high resolution with really good latency and everything else you'd possibly want without having to get into scalers or FPGA devices or original hardware modding or CRT collecting. Now don't get me wrong, those things are fun to get into, but I understand it's not for everyone, and that's why software emulation is so important. And don't forget, this does have an overclocking mode as well. If you haven't played around with it, it's not going to solve every single sin in every single game, like Conker's Bad Fur Day, which desperately needs a recomp. It's still going to run slow, but it'll run slightly faster than it would on real hardware. It's also going to be our second soundtrack sample, just because I love the intro music. Reminds me of Barry Lyndon, and I'll be right back with just a little bit more N64 news.
Well, there I am. Conquer the king. King of all the land. Who'd have thought that?
And here's Video Game Esoterica Zag of the Week. If you never watched Stanley Kubrick's Barry Lyndon, I consider it to be his best film. Definitely isn't going to be the most popular one. I would say that's probably going to be The Shining. But honestly, the first time I saw Barry Lyndon, I fell in love with it. And there's something about Conker's Bad Fur Day intro that always reminds me of that movie in all of the best ways. Obviously, Stanley Kubrick didn't have a talking squirrel in the film, but if you could add one in, might make it even better. But all jokes aside, because we are talking about rodents, Gopher64 it just 100% been killing it with their most recent updates. It went from an emulator that had a lot of promise, but I might not put on the same level as Aries or Rosalie's Moop and GUI, and now I think for the most part you can kind of interchange between the 3. And it's not like these things cost money, so you can have 3 different emulators for the same console in folders on your PC and just kind of pick and choose which one you want to use that day, because one might give you a better result or better performance. But N64 is in its new golden era. It's seeing a renaissance in 2026. We still have the Mod Retro M64 to be released soon, and we have a ton of static recomps and source ports coming out and in the works, and that's just amazing, because the N64 maybe didn't have the biggest library, but it has some absolute bangers, and they're definitely games you should play, like Sin and Punishment here. If somehow you've never played it before, you're 100% missing out. After that, we're done. If you have any questions or comments, leave them down below and I'll try to answer each and every one of you. But otherwise, the link to Gopher64's GitHub is in the description. I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.